Hot 30. I am Lina Fayyad.
And I'm McDonald.
And now that we are past Valentine's Day, and since all the love is in the air and it's an emotional month, Holly and
Yes, red.
Yes, exactly. I kind of forgot the red. So we wanted to bring some sensitive topics to our platform, just to share with our buyers and sellers, since emotions are up in the air, and it's a month all about love. So we'll be talking about family issues, probate, trust, and we'll update you on the market now that February is kind of looking good so far. Holly, how are you? Happy Valentine's. You look fabulous.
Thank you. So do you.
Thank you. So, February's almost over. What can we tell our buyers? What have you seen from January? Now that more homes are popping up, more inventory.
Surprisingly, there hasn't been that much more inventory. There has certainly been new inventory, but it's filling in the older inventory that's selling really fast. We are seeing interest rates are still very, very low. I myself have personally looked at getting pre-approved, and in the last month the rates have come down, which is a great surprise, because when the rates come down, not only does that mean your potential mortgage payment is going to be lower, but it also increases your affordability if you have a certain budget you're going to stick with. So that's good news for buyers.
So it seems like it picked up a little from January, but still kind of the same?
Yeah, I would say there's more buyers out there now, as we kind of predicted and warned you about as we get into the months following the holidays. I know there was one property that we were just looking at online last night for fun, my husband and I, and it had gone on the market earlier that day, and by the evening it already had over 1,000 views.
Wow.
So I think that goes to show you, properties are in high demand, and there's a lot of buyers. I don't know if there's 1,000 buyers out there for that one house, but people were looking at it a lot of times, so that's a really good indicator.
Yeah, I have seen Redfin definitely pop up, especially since we're both Redfin partner agents, so we're definitely getting views on that. And I've also seen some homes fly off the market, like you said, in certain areas that kind of were on from last year, and looks like going into March, we're doing good.
We certainly hope there will be more inventory, because I know both of us are working with buyers who have been beat out on other properties. Maybe they're sold too fast, or they've gotten multiple offers, and our offers weren't strong enough to compete. So once there is more inventory, rest assured, buyers, you will have a better chance than you do now. But if you are ready to go now and you can make a competitive offer, go for it.
Like she said, why not, and why beat around the bush when you can just find something you like? And that's the thing, if you actually go out and start buying, it takes a few months to find just the home, the right home. So buyers, let's start getting you approved, and sellers, let's list your homes out there.
I think you just made me think about something that I know a lot of my buyers are bringing up this question to me.
Please.
They're saying, well, why would I buy now if I could wait a few months and we predict there will be more inventory?
Testing the market.
I'll have more to choose from. So I would just caution you as buyers that yes, there is a possibility that there will be more to choose from as we get into the spring. There will also be more competition that you're competing with. And if you do find the right house now, like Lina said, why let it pass you by, hoping that the grass will be greener in a few months if you find something better? I mean, there's always a case to be made that you could have buyer's remorse, but truly, if you find a house that fits your needs, you feel connected to it, you feel like this is the home for you, waiting for the next best thing to come along could just end up biting you in the end.
Yeah.
I've certainly seen buyers that have come to me and said, oh, I wish I bought last year when this particular house was on the market, because it was either A, cheaper, or B, it was the right location, and it was just maybe the wrong timing for them because they were holding out. But if it's the right home, don't hold back.
Don't hesitate.
Yeah.
Yes, and you'd be surprised. There's active buyers out there that are continuously online looking for just the right price home, just the right fix and flip. Yeah. So I've seen buyers, really sad that the home was, beat by a better offer. So like Holly said, the competition comes with, double the offers when sellers get them. So they have, like you said, more to choose from and a lower chance of leveraging their position. Whereas now they really do have a good chance.
Yeah, we have also seen, and this is a topic for another day.
Yeah, maybe we're mixing things.
I do want to say one last thing before we actually move into the topic at hand. I have seen buyers that will get upset when they notice that a property that was in poor condition sells for a very good price. So let's say it's a home that sells to a cash buyer who's intending to flip it because the house is completely run down, all the systems need to be repaired and replaced. It's just going to be very expensive to fix. I've seen buyers get upset because they feel like they've missed their chance. Remember that guy we sold to in Tustin? Absolutely. This is a case in point where he had seen a property online and felt like he had missed his chance because a too good to be true property, it was a single family house for right around $400,000. Let me tell you that price does not exist without a reason. It's either priced to create a bidding war hysteria, or it's priced because it needs to sell to an investor or flipper because the property condition is so poor that the house itself almost has no value, and they're basically purchasing it to scrape it. So if you feel like you've seen a property that you might have missed the boat on, we are here to help validate that for you. There are, every once in a while there is a property that really was too good to be true, but it's like 1 in a million. We're in Orange County. We're in a very popular market with a lot of people that have money. So a price tag that looks too good to be true is usually due to circumstances that you're not seeing when you look at the old listing online.
Yeah, I'd love to see how those inspections come in, like it's always fun to kind of flip them and then see why the value is such, and then you'll see XYZ. It's all on paper.
Yeah, like if you see a home, for example, we work a lot of coastal areas. So if you see a single family house that's in the 500 range, 500,000 is not single family pricing right now. Single family homes in our areas are starting at maybe 700, 800,000. If you see a deal like that, it probably needs a few $100,000 in renovations and permitting and bringing it up to code. So don't feel like you missed out if you didn't get that property. Exactly. We just want you to realize, there are reasonings behind all of this why a property might look like it's a good value. So don't beat yourself up and don't try to don't hold out waiting for that next bargain to come along when that's not reflective of the market. Yeah.
And I think we should definitely come back with another podcast about that.
Yeah, there's so much we could say about that.
Definitely noted. So moving on to our next segment, guys. So talking about sensitive topic, family issues. I personally have dealt with probate within my family, and I have multiple siblings. And Holly and I wanted to bring this because we have dealt with it with our clients as well, and we are currently in a situation in an escrow dealing with trusts and probate issues. So, what can you say? What do you have to say? I have a lot to say, but maybe I'll give in slowly. But what have you experienced?
I think I'm going to start with just a very basic introduction to some things that you need to know about trusts, and then we can go a little bit more specific into different issues you'll run into or may run into. One of the first things that we need to know as agents, whether we're helping you sell a home or helping a buyer buy a home, is whether or not the home is in a trust or not, because that is often not known to us. We have access to tax records, and on the tax records it should list if the property is in the name of a trust or not, but the fact is these records are not perfect. A lot of times they are not up to date, or sellers may have just updated a trust or created a trust, and so the county records that we have aren't reflecting that yet. So the reason I mention this is because we've dealt with this a few times. Where say we take a listing and everybody has to sign, every buyer and every seller. If we don't have the correct people signing in the correct manner, so say somebody owns a home and it's held in a trust, then perhaps they need to sign as trustee for the trust. It all needs to be done properly because the contract's not really valid unless it is done properly. And we don't always know that right away. We typically will find that out by the time we get a title report, which usually happens fairly quickly. But the fact is it does slow things down. It does create the need to redo paperwork, which is taxing and confusing for a lot of people. Nobody wants the extra work. It can confuse the lenders. It can confuse things with escrow. We really want to try to have everything correct from the beginning. And so the only way to do that is to make sure that we know from the get-go whether the home is in a trust and how it's held and who needs to be signing on behalf of that trust. As well as on the buyer's side, there are buyers that purchase homes and want to put them into trust right away. And, there's different ways to go about that, but we need to know that the proper people are signing. There are forms that we have to use specifically for that, or the brokerages are not satisfied, and just legally it's not right.
Yeah, I mean, I've even run into situations where, the home is in a trust, for example, and siblings have to come together and decide who will be the signing person. Is it going to be one person signing for all 5 siblings, or is it going to be every single person signing? And some siblings aren't even in the country.
Right.
So, you and I have to sit here and scramble phone numbers and try to reach buyers overseas and have them sign and notarize and have that be legal and brought back. And so it's definitely little things like that. I've seen paperwork that has been signed, and, brothers and sisters came back to me and said, we're getting an attorney, and so we can, really, sit down and lay this out flat. And, and us as agents, we really can't get personal. We kind of have to stay professional and in our lane. So we try not to, we're kind of like therapists, but we're not. So we kind of have to hear them out, understand them, and validate that this is a very sensitive time for everybody in the process. And you just really have to walk step by step with this. Definitely read those documents. I know, me as an agent, I tell myself, Holly tells me all the time, we all tell each other, read those documents. Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I have to say.
Yeah, no, it's all very valid. I mean, I certainly have had issues where one seller resides in the country and maybe a family member is involved in the ownership of the property, and then they have to go and they have to get everything notarized and sent back by the embassy and everything, which is, obviously it takes time. And the fact of the matter is, while we do typically have, let's say, 30 days an average escrow, there are timeframes that need to be met, and if sellers can't perform or buyers can't perform, we do have breach of contract, and we have to make sure all parties are on the same page and in agreement, otherwise there can be consequences. So we've also had buyers that, sellers. We've had sellers that unfortunately, one member of the ownership of the property is passed on, and then notarized death certificates and everything need to be provided based upon whatever the title company and the escrow company require. But again, that can hold up a closing if those documents aren't provided and reviewed and analyzed in time. So it's best to have that information as soon as possible, if not even before an offer is accepted, so we can get a jump on it. Because a lot of people in these situations, they're not all local. Like Lina said,
and
they can
some
be
of them are
international.
even married. So even you have to keep in mind, if someone is married, their spouses have to sign off on certain documents that, to kind of say they have nothing to do with this trust. So it really kind of trickles down. It's kind of like a domino effect. And I've experienced that, personally, I would say, in my private life with probate and attorneys and so and even some trusts aren't even completed before that person does move on and pass away, rest in peace. So definitely be very intricate in reading those documents and maybe consulting, getting some legal advice on, if this document makes sense to you. If you don't understand a term, the legalese can always throw people off. So definitely read your documents, guys. So
yeah, that brings up a really good point that I was just thinking of too. A lot of people will try to do these documents themselves, and it is best to get legal advice or guidance when you're doing this, because if they're not recorded properly, you could be in a difficult situation down the road when you're in the middle of an escrow. Somebody, depending on their situation, somebody could be in the final phases of their life and may have signed a document, but it might not be the correct one, or maybe it wasn't notarized in the correct way, and then it could be too late, and then you could end up in probate, which I think most people try to avoid probate if they can. That's why a lot of people set up trusts. Probate's in place for a reason, but it certainly slows things down. It makes
absolutely.
real estate transactions really difficult, and it makes it hard for families that are trying to move on, and it's expensive as well. So there's a lot of things to consider. I think a question I get from a lot of buyers is, if they see a property and one of the conditions on it is that it is a probate sale, they want to know, how is this going to impact the process? What does this mean for me? In most cases, there's a few different ways it can go down.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will need court approval. If if you need court approval, that could take months.
It does.
So
I mean, from the few ones I've worked on, including my personal one, it does need court approval, and I think you have to, like, because not all the parties agree, let's say, on one of the offers.
Yeah.
Like, you decided you wanted to sell your house for X number, and the other 3 siblings are like, no. So it's like, how do you come to that agreement? And it's like, so that definitely takes time, and it's a great topic for buyers in the future who are dealing with probate. So
yeah, I think that that's really good to know, because if you're a buyer that is wanting to move in 30 days and not very flexible on your timing, that might not be the right house for you if that's the situation. Typically, homes in that situation are just going to require a little bit more patience, and it might be a good buy, but it will depend on your timing and what works for you. Lina made a really good point, actually, too, about when you do have multiple parties involved in the decision making, you will often get a lot of tension as far as getting decisions made. They may not be made as quickly as you want. You may have, like, I had a deal once where it was several siblings that were involved, and a couple of them were from different areas of the country, so they had like a different input on what they thought the house should be worth, regardless of what the local comps here were. They just, they had their assumptions from looking
of
online.
how the market was here.
Yeah, maybe the national headlines are saying the market's on fire and everything's getting bid up by 100,000. And true, maybe that has been the case in certain times, but fast forward to where we are today, certainly it's quite rare to see properties getting overbid to that extreme. So, you just want to make sure that whoever is making the decisions is doing it for the best interest of the trust. Of course, that's what everybody wants. And then you also want to make sure that if there are multiple decision makers, that they are realistic. And it's hard to know that all the time.
Yeah, and it's hard to even voice that, really, because sometimes you don't even have communication besides email. And so definitely a very sensitive topic. A lot of information here for you guys. So definitely tune in, comment, and like below if you have any questions. I think people should read your documents, and if you have any questions, if you want to sell your home and it's in a trust, we'd be more than happy to help you and assist in that.
Yeah, I know that there are other scenarios too where sometimes sellers might be a little bit more specific about what type of price they want for the house because of their own situation. So they might need the cash faster, or they might need more cash than their sibling does. So you have to be sensitive to that. I've experienced that with my own family, where certain members of the family just want to sell the property because they're done with it, and other members are really looking forward to getting their piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. And that is important to realize, that there may be so many people involved, as well as, like Lina had said too, where there, once you have a lot of people involved, then you may have spouses and stuff that need to we have to make sure that they don't have any claim to the property, because the last thing you want, even though a title policy is there to protect you, the last thing you want is for people to come back after the fact and claim that they have some right to the property. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, you don't want that nightmare going there. So, I mean, and you might sit there and be like, oh, I'm never going to run into this. But honestly, and realistically, you're going to run into some sort of family issues if your home is in a trust, and not everyone's on the same page, so it's just very sensitive, so and we keep that in mind as agents, and try not to come in the middle. We're just neutral.
So another family issue, to take it away from trusts and probate for a little bit, is divorce. I mean, unfortunately,
that's a big one.
It's common. Obviously, we all know that. I've been through it myself, and I can tell you that when you are going through the divorce, it can be an emotional time. It can be a time where people are kind of picking, going for each penny they can get, and it can get a little tense. It's not always like that, of course, but I think that it's important for sellers to keep in mind, to try to keep it as business as possible, just for the sake of getting through the contract and making it a fairly peaceful process, as well as for buyers to realize, sometimes buyers are going to want to try to know where they can take advantage of a situation, let's say, and a lot of times people will feel like maybe they have the upper hand if they're purchasing a property that's going through divorce. They might realize there could be speed bumps, but they also might realize, hey, these people really need to sell, or they really, they have a good motivation, so let's go ahead and kick them when they're down, kind of thing. So not that people are all coming from that viewpoint, but I'm not surprised when people come in and ask for maybe excessive repairs or that type of thing, or make lower offers if they are aware that it's a divorce situation. Typically, when I am dealing with that scenario, unless the seller is open and wants us to inform
And disclose
buyers,
that,
that's the situation that they need to sell quickly, then of course we would disclose whatever the seller wants us to say. But otherwise, we try to keep that off the table because it's really nobody's business. People can make all the inferences they want, but we're not really privy to share that information, as it could impact the type of offers and the type of way the dealings go on in the transaction. So, we just want to try to keep it a level playing field for everybody and follow the contract.
Yeah, and I've had people, some people ask me, come on, just tell me, why are they selling? They just bought it a couple years ago, and I'm like, they're just choosing. They found a better offer, or
circumstance.
Exactly. We can't really disclose anything unless told, by the seller. So
yeah, we gotta protect everybody, and that's our due diligence. We have to. It's our ethical duty, actually, to do what's in the best interest of our clients.
So, closing this sensitive topic, hopefully you guys had a great Valentine's last week, and keep the spirit up. It's all about love and kindness. And moving on to pocket listings.
Yes,
do we have any good news?
Yeah, we do. So as we are approaching the spring market, there are sellers that are not quite ready to put their homes on the market, but they are exploring their options. So we are aware of several opportunities in coastal Orange County where sellers are open to offers. They're open to making a move. They are happy for us to share their information. So we are happy to share it with you if it seems like a good fit. Tell us what you're looking for.
Yes.
We are on the prowl looking for other potential sellers that might be ready to sell. And of course, we're always keeping an eye out for our buyers for whatever their needs are. I do have a couple of clients right now that are looking around the Huntington Beach and Costa Mesa areas, and they're looking below 800,000. So it's a very competitive market. So any tips we can get on any properties that might be on the horizon, we would surely appreciate it. And then potentially, if it's a good fit, then if you're not somebody that wants to be hassled with putting your home on the market, it could be a good fit for everybody, but obviously at a fair market value.
Yes, I even have investors looking, also around 800 duplexes. They're trying to investment properties, things like that. So please let us know what you have, and we'll be more than happy to help, assist, put it on the market, and get it sold for you. Thank you again for watching Orange County's Real Estate Hot 30. I am Lina Fayyad.
And I'm Holly McDonald.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.